Do you know right off the top of your head what percentage of people experience low back pain every single day?
So almost 80%
Okay.
of the population
Oh,
will experience low back pain at some point in their lives.
Welcome to Bald Business, the naked truth in entrepreneurship. Let's begin.
welcome back to another episode of Bald Business, the naked truth in entrepreneurship. I'm super excited today because I have Grant Elliott with me with RehabFix. And he is, would you consider the fitness industry, the health industry?
Yeah.
Basically?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're all part of the health industry,
yeah.
sure.
Cool. So I was super excited to have you on mainly because I believe obviously in health and fitness, and I think what you're doing with people's low back specifically, but then just how you help people heal functionally versus like going and having surgery is really, really cool. So let's just start kind of at the beginning. Like, what got you into the health field, I guess, and why specifically did you get into? You're a doctor of chiropractic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but you're not like your standard old school chiropractic where you come in, just get cracked, and you leave, right? So I really want people to understand that and how different that is, and why this is the approach that you've taken, and then we'll get into some other stuff.
Yeah, so initial background, broad question of what got me into health and fitness.
Right.
I'm the youngest of three boys.
Okay.
We were all in athletics growing up, so just sports, activity, exercise was just a part of our upbringing.
Okay.
So we were all in sports, and I did wrestling and cycling throughout high school, so I was always interested in being in the gym and being fit and stuff like that. And I'll kind of blend my journey to want to become a chiropractor with my interest in fitness. Okay. Where as I was really peaking with cycling, I was 3.5 years into racing, and I was actually getting to be quite good. I started to get some scholarship offers from some schools in Colorado and North Carolina, and I was in my second to last season. I started to get low back issues. Okay. And this isn't going where you think it's going to go. I started getting low back issues, and it was starting to significantly affect my races. Because at that point, I was what was considered a Cat 2 racer, moving into Cat 1, where the races would sometimes between 1.5 to 2.5 hour races. Mm-hmm. So a while on a bike at maximal effort. And these were all mountain biking. It was mountain biking.
Okay, got it.
Cross country mountain biking. And so then I started to get to the point where an hour and a half into the race, my low back would really start cramping up, getting tight. And then I would have to barely make it through the end. Mm-hmm. And then it started to cramp up an hour in. And then I would only make it another 30 minutes. And then I would start to really fall back and started messing with me. And then it got to be 45 minutes and I'd have to stop, get off my bike, stretch in the woods, get back on and go. Wow. And at that level, you can't let 5 seconds
go.
No,
I mean, you're getting smoked after that.
Smoked. So I started just getting last in my races, right? And so my dad was like, all right, we got to do something about it. And remember, I'm 16, 17.
Of course.
So let's go see a chiropractor. So I went to see a chiropractor, and more old school, traditional one that you would say, come in 3 times a week. You're going to be fine. Look at these curves on your x-ray. So I was going in 3 times every week, and nothing's changing. What should I do? Oh, just keep coming. Keep coming. 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks go by, still bailing out of my races. 45 minutes in. So, my dad didn't really know what to do. They didn't really know much better at that time. Mm-hmm. I certainly didn't know any better. So I stopped racing. I was no longer in athletics. And then I was like, well, I need an outlet. So then I fell in love with the gym. And I started just bodybuilding, lifting heavy, getting into that sort of thing. Eventually competed in a few bodybuilding shows and what have you. But how that transitions to me becoming a chiropractor, most people think, oh, you're going to have a great experience with a chiropractor. That's why you want to become one. It's the opposite. Bad experience. Yeah. And then about 2 years after that, once I was really into training, I was at LA Fitness back in Indiana. Okay. And one of the trainers was a chiropractor, and he was just getting started. So he was personal training on the side to build his business and all that. And I got to know him, and just the things he was saying was very different. Was more about, function and movement and rehab and those things I was never exposed to. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, I want to learn more about what you do. I just want to come shadow you. So I went and I shadowed him. He worked on me a little bit too. And I had a little neck injury at that time. And I was like, oh my gosh, if this had been what I had received,
I'd still be racing.
2 years, I would still be racing. And I would maybe have my school paid for, what have you. Now, of course, we're all happy with how our lives end up because everything happens for a reason.
Of course.
At that point, I knew I always wanted to be in something related to health. Mm-hmm. I thought for some time I wanted to be a doctor of some sort, but then that inspired me to become a chiropractor so I could ensure that no more individuals had the experience that I did.
That's
so
great.
I could prevent that scenario from happening.
That's great.
So went through my undergraduate exercise science, went to St. Louis for chiropractic school, which is 3.5 years year round.
It is year round.
It is year round. Okay. Yeah, we average around 36 to 40 credit hours per trimester.
Wow.
So heavy course load, but it's like accelerated pace, so you can graduate early, which I prefer.
Yeah. Agreed.
Graduated from there. I know I'm skipping a lot here, but was from the very start focused more on rehab, movement, not just crack in 2 minutes, see you next week. Crack, see you next week. My goal was to get people better and for them to not need me. And that's still the same goal today, for ultimately people to not need me at all. Maybe just for support here and there.
Yeah, check-ins, whatever.
Yeah, but the goal is for people to not be dependent on any healthcare provider.
Of course.
Not even me.
Of course.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. And I did forget to mention we're both from Indiana, so which was weird because I knew about you when I was in Indy, but we just never, we just never crossed paths. And then when we were here, we did. So that was super random, and it's a small world.
It is a small world.
So let's kind of talk about for a minute, you were obviously a high level athlete, right? In that sport. That's very frustrating to have to give up that.
Yeah.
Right. What do you feel like was, you went and saw this chiropractor. He said, just give it time. It didn't work out. Did you, after that experience, say, I'll never go back to another chiropractor? Or was it kind of like you just didn't know? Maybe he just didn't figure it out? Because you're 16, right? So, is it more just like, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be? Or did you know, like, this was bad?
Yeah. So at that point in my level of development, I don't think I was making any sort of broad judgment calls on the profession as a whole. It was more so just, I guess that didn't work.
Well, some frustration probably.
Yeah, of course. I was highly frustrated.
Yeah.
Felt like I was at a dead end, but I didn't develop any, like pre-perceived notions about chiropractors as a whole. I just thought that didn't work. I have no direction on where to go from here. So I guess I need to stop because this is painful and embarrassing.
Right.
So I'll just start working out now.
That makes sense. So, and just so that I'm really understanding, when you go to chiropractic school, is there a lot of that therapy that's taught, or is that something that you took upon yourself and said, all right, look, there's a better way and I'm going to actually improve this as a whole?
Yeah. Great question. So as with any program in any sort of university, there's what you're taught in the classroom and there's what you can learn outside of it, but still related to you being in that atmosphere.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So I say this and it's quite blunt, but it's true. If I only knew what the school taught me, I would suck at my job.
Okay.
And
I think that's most things.
Yeah, it is most things, but that's what most people do. They rely on the curriculum, and it's just it won't suffice in this day and age, at least, for the kind of treatment that I want to be able to provide. So, of course, there were certain professors that influenced me a lot and helped guide me the right direction. But ultimately, almost every ounce of knowledge that I apply and use was learned elsewhere. Now, what I always say, and some people say, Grant, like you're doing all this online stuff now and other things, it's very untraditional. Do you regret, going to school for 3.5 years, spending that money, making that investment because of, how you're not really using it?
Yeah.
Well, ultimately that's not true because I needed to be in that environment to be exposed to these different avenues.
Right.
And I would have never been exposed to these other seminars or shadowing opportunities or lectures where I learned this good information unless I'd been in that environment.
Right.
So I truly would have never known it.
Yeah.
So just being in that atmosphere was very conducive.
Well, I think too, I think in general, people regret a lot of things. It's something that I try not to do is regret a lot of things. But you're going to live and learn, right? So even if you had regretted it, like, what does that matter? Like you took some value from it one way or the other.
Absolutely.
So no, I love that. Yeah. So kind of transitioning into how specifically you help people, because we've been sitting at home for at least all of this year. A lot of people sit anyways. I don't know what the statistic is exactly, but I do know that they have compared sitting to smoking from a standpoint of overall health. What do you think of that?
open up a can of worms here. So for the longest time, they did say, sitting is the new smoking, but, standing all day isn't better either, right? Well, ultimately, if we look at the evidence and we look at studies that assess postural positions, postural changes, and how that relates to poor function and pain, truly there is no substantial evidence to say sitting is bad.
Okay.
But that's because that's a very generic statement, right?
Okay.
It's hard to say anything is good or bad.
Okay.
What you can say is a movement or a position that your body is not prepared for could be good or bad based on the individual. So if I am used to sitting 8 hours straight, might have been uncomfortable at first, and guarantee I'm still going to be stiff even if I have the best back in the world. But if I'm used to that, if that's part of my job, if I'm doing that day in, day out for years, as opposed to someone else who's used to being very active, and then they're told, all right, now sit for 8 hours, they're going to be way more susceptible to pain and impairment of function than I would, because my body is used to it. So it's not that sitting is the problem, it's that their body hadn't adapted to it and they're not used to it. Now, generally speaking, and I know I'm going on a tangent.
No, it's fine. I like
probably
it.
What you want.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, though, sitting in one position for 8 hours isn't good no matter who you are, but it's not because they're sitting with, rounded shoulders or whatever. That's not the problem with it. The problem with it is that they're in a same position for 8 hours. So I don't care for the visual attendees here.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're sitting like this or sitting like this. Either one. If you're in either of those, bad or good positions for too long, you're going to feel pain. You're going to feel stiffness. You're going to start to get achy. And the analogy I give all the time is, I'm going to turn sideways here. Pretend I strain my elbow. So for purely the auditory listeners here, you strain your elbow, you bend it, you have it in a sling or something, it hurts. And then, over time, you need to get it stretched and get it moving and let it release over time. But let's say that, you've had it in here for, months potentially. And then you go to straighten it out. And you're like, oh man, that's stiff. It is hard to open up my elbow.
Right. Because it's been at that L. It's been in that L or that 90 degrees for so long.
Exactly right. So it's been in that position for too long. So it's difficult to straighten it. Right. That doesn't mean straightening it is bad though.
Right. Of course.
So if I bend my elbow, that's completely normal range of motion. If I extend my elbow, completely normal range of motion. But if I hold this for 8 hours, it's going to hurt. If I hold this for 8 hours, it's going to hurt.
Right.
So it all really depends on how long you're in any said position, not the shape or the perception of that position alone.
Okay. So, I mean, I like that answer because I was asking more from a standpoint of health and people needing to move. So you're saying movement is really what matters. It's not a matter of if you're sitting or not sitting, but it's the same position for long periods of time.
Yes. And if you want to cut to the chase of that 5-minute answer I provided, I don't care how long you sit if you're taking frequent movement breaks during that entire duration.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
What's frequent?
What I would say, well, for most people, they don't want to be interrupting their work every 10 minutes, right? That's not realistic.
Right.
But let's say the break we're discussing is getting up and walking around your office. At least every hour. Just get up, stand, move, walk around, go get some water, go to the bathroom even if you have to or not. Go move somehow. Come back, sit down. So maybe that's 2 minutes of walking. That could be enough to make a significant change in your life.
Okay.
But let's say you're like, okay, I can do that every hour, but man, my low back starts to get achy every 30 minutes though, but I just don't have the time to do that. Well, you can still achieve frequent movements while you're sitting. So a simple example is I grab this water bottle I have right here, throw that water bottle on my low back. Now I have a homemade lumbar support. So now my back is more of an extended position. So I could have it like this for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I can take the water bottle out and I can resume a slouched position.
Right.
So I'm getting movement in my low back, although not my whole body, I'm still getting frequent movement in my low back. So it'll get me to that hour mark. And now when I get up and I stand and I move my whole body, I'm feeling pretty darn good.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I like the long answer because I think it helps people listening. So going off of that idea that sitting in one position. So my question to you was, is sitting the new smoking, because that's what people say. Yeah. You said not necessarily. It's more about not sitting in one position for too long, trying to move, whether it's helping yourself with a water bottle, with the support, so on and so forth. What do you feel like? So, and this is for people who are listening who experience back pain. I know the percentage is high, but do you know right off the top of your head what percentage of people experience low back pain every single day?
So almost 80%
Okay.
of the population
Oh,
will experience low back pain at some point in their lives.
solid.
Most
So
80%. That's
so
kind of the top end.
This episode will probably be the most popular episode because this is obviously a huge, huge problem. So if we think about that, right, there's common denominators that are causing that. It's not like 80% of people don't have a problem because, you know, there's 80% different case. Like every single one of those cases is not different, right? What is something common that you see that people are just doing that are causing their low back pain?
Yeah. I would build on top of the discussion that we just had.
Okay.
One, sitting for long periods and not getting frequent movement. What this transitioned to is a lot of flexion-based injuries.
Okay.
What does that mean? Flexion just means bending forward of the spine, forward motion of the spine, bending over to touch your toes, put on your sock shoes. That's flexion of the low back.
Okay.
So the reason why a lot of individuals hurt their low backs in flexion-based movements, we hear all the time, oh, I was deadlifting a little bit more than I should have. My back started around, I hurt my back. I bent over to pick up a gallon of water, bent over, twisted, I hurt my back. It's very, very common, bending, rotation, or bending in general. So if I am sitting 8 hours a day in a flexed position, then if I go and I do more movements that's stressing my back further on that flex position, it's built up way too much flexion throughout the day. And this is just one example. So I built way, way, way too much. So I'm kind of just working upstream now at this point. Maybe there's no way to predict, but something's going to happen eventually.
Right. Yeah. A rubber band reaches its breaking point at some point.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. So for that example, if I'm taking frequent movement breaks and getting the opposite motion, extension, or if I'm doing just like maybe some simple cobra movements throughout the day, something really simple like that to balance out the motion I'm getting in my back, I'm going to have a lot more resiliency in, you know, multi-variable positions.
Got it. That makes sense.
So it's difficult to say, you know, why are so many people having low back issues now? It's quite complex and quite broad. Pain is a multifactorial experience. And I say experience because one phrasing is that pain is not an input, pain is an output. So
pain isn't weakness leaving your body.
it is not. As much as we would like to say that to our athletes that we're trying to crush on the field.
No, I'm kidding.
It's a perception, and it can be, you know, caused by many, many different facets.
Okay.
So we used to think, oh, the only reason you should experience pain is if there's biological damage or tissue damage. Like I cut my arm, I feel pain. 1 + 1 = 2. We've learned much more recently than ever that it's not that simple. Okay. A very common model that still is kind of general is known as the biopsychosocial model. So we have our biology. A cut can cause pain. Sure. Psychology is the psychology of the individual, just where their mental state is as a whole, their mindfulness, all those things can negatively impact our experience with pain. And then social. So are we being taken away from our community? Let's say let's say I love CrossFit. Everyone loves CrossFit, right? They get the community, they get pushed, all these things. And then all of a sudden they hurt their back. Now they can't do CrossFit for who knows how long because they're not getting better. They're removed from their community. So they have two aspects of pain there. One, biological, they might have strained a muscle, might have strained a disc, whatever. But now two, they're social influences. They're removed from their community. Now, because they don't have the community that they had, the social interaction, now they're developing a psychological component of it because now they feel isolated. Now they're stuck in their thoughts. Now they're in this trap of stinking thinking, and they become a prisoner in their own mind. So now they've developed 3 components of a pain model, and it's not just as simple as, oh, you have a boo-boo.
Got it.
So as a whole, why are people experiencing more low back pain than ever? The only true answer I could provide is because we're just not moving enough as a society. We don't eat well, we don't move enough, and we're all deconditioned because no one's pushing their bodies. But to get more specific than that would be virtually impossible.
Well, no. I mean, I agree with that answer. So I think that's cool. I just think that hearing that from someone who's specifically in the field is super important, right? Because if I am sitting, listening at home, and I've just tried working at my computer for 6 hours today, and 4 out of those 6 hours, my back was just screaming. and all you say is get up and move, and I try that and it helps, I mean, that's huge, right? And then I'm going to search you out and I'm going to learn more. And then how do I actually fix this issue?
Yep.
I think that's great. I think that's great.
And it can be as simple as that as well. And before your next question, one note is that a lot of people think they need some complex resolution to something. So people are looking for different, massage gun devices, different inversion tables, traction tables, decompression. Oh, well, this guy said we got to do all this fancy work with many different musculoskeletal issues, muscle, skeletal pain, type stuff, but especially low back. Sometimes the simplest advice can go so far. And that's really where the expertise comes into play, where you don't need to waste a lot of time or waste a lot of resources to get a very large outcome. Sometimes something as simple as set an alarm, move every hour, that's it. That alone could reduce someone's pain by 50%.
50%.
Sure.
Wow.
Well, now I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's very real.
I see what you're saying.
Just incorporating,
just by changing
something so simple could yield to such a great outcome.
That makes sense.
In that person's life.
So since you said it, because I was going to ask you about it later, but let's just talk about it now. All these devices, right? You got massage guns, you got inversion tables, you have the foam rollers, there's a lot of things. And I personally think some of those tools can be beneficial. I don't know what your opinion is, but I think some of them can be beneficial. How many of them, though, are really just, in your opinion, how many of them are really just like masking the issue? Like we pick up these things and we start using them, and obviously, like the gun, right? That gun can be very deceiving because in the moment you're like, wow, this feels really good. Yeah. And then 15 minutes later, it's, oh, well, it feels the same as that it did. Yeah. Right. So how many of the products that are out there that are being pushed as solutions, quote unquote, are really just like a Band-Aid or a mask that's not really helping us at all? It's probably exacerbating the issue.
Yeah. 100% of them.
All of them.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
And here's why. I have low back pain. I go and I get some painkillers for it. All right. Well, we all know at this point in time that that's temporary. It's just masking pain. Very simple, right? Instead, I go and I get a massage gun, and that gives me some temporary relief in my low back. Well, that's a drug-free way to get some temporary pain relief, which is a great alternative. But by all means,
yeah. I mean, you're getting away from the pharmaceuticals, so that's a plus.
So fantastic. But if you look at it at the component of temporary relief but no real solution, it's still just another drug in a sense. So there are many different things that can be helpful in certain situations. So 100% of those devices are not a long-term solution, but any one of them could be beneficial in certain circumstances. So let's take the massage gun, for example. Okay. Personally, I would not waste my money on a massage gun, but there's different variables we have to break down. A lot of people, massage feels good. So that could give them a good, mental release, a good reprieve from that pain temporarily. That alone could give them a little bit of a boost to go out and move, do something. And the result of them feeling more confident and, you know what, I'm going to feel good for 5 minutes. So for these 5 minutes, I'm going to walk. The result of that could be the solution, getting them moving more.
Got it.
But if you're just laying on your couch, massage gunning your low back,
throwing it to the side.
It's the same thing as popping a pill, but just a drug-free approach.
Right.
So it's not changing someone's movement. It's not changing someone's habits. It's not changing someone's understanding about their low back or about their pain.
Got it.
So it's about the application.
So let's talk about one other thing while we're on that thought process. So the arch in your back. I've heard different things, but in general, I think that as a general population, it's easy for us to buy into like, oh, well, you're losing your arch or your arch is gone and that's what the problem is. And what's your take or opinion on that? Is that arch important? And is there things that we can do on a daily basis to make sure that we keep it and it doesn't just completely go flat?
Yeah, great question. So what's so great about us as humans is that we're all different. Right?
Oh, of course.
So your body's shaped differently, mine. We're all shaped differently. We all have different hair, colors of eyes, lengths of our arms, whatever. But even more so, if you were to slice my body in half and compare the right side of my body to the left side of my body, I wouldn't even match myself. Okay. So that being said, the same thing applies to the structure of our body and the structure of our spine.
Mm.
It's no different. Some people are going to have really curvy spines, some really straight spines, some, bended forward, some arched back. It's all normal variance.
Interesting.
And I know that this might be mind-blowing for some of the listeners because many spine providers look for something to attach that person's pain to. Oh, the reason why you have pain is because you don't have enough curve in your back. You need more curve. Well, the evidence doesn't support that. The reason for your low back is because your hips are uneven. Well, the evidence doesn't support that. This is a very 1 + 1 = 2 situation, where we know that pain is about more movement and many different factors of that person's environment. We can't just blame one thing. It just doesn't work that way. A lot of times I hear that all the time. Oh, I was told I have too much curve or too little curve. Those are just simply not applicable to any real low back cases.
Is there any, and I'll tell you, I tend to believe this only because I believe that our bodies could function in this way. But in your opinion, people get like pinched nerves and pinch, and obviously that's, I had a pinched nerve for a long time and it caused lots of pain. But a conversation that I had with somebody in the past, they said, well, a pinched nerve, time it's causing pain is actually it's caused all this other damage. Do you believe, or in your professional opinion, the nerves are the things that come off of our spine, right, and go to our organs and things like that, are they truly affected in a negative way if we have pinches, quote unquote, or that might not even be a thing, of those nerves throughout our spine? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I believe so. And if it doesn't, just interrupt me and rephrase it. So I want to make sure that you're not asking if we will get pinched nerves as a result of like curves in our spine. You're not asking.
No, I'm saying if there is one, can it actually affect your heart or your organs? Or
the organs. Oh, you're talking about
without us knowing.
Yes. So here's the thing. There's this old, I think it's called the Merrick chart. Man, I should have looked this up beforehand. If I'd known the question, I would have. I think it's called the Merrick chart. Someone might have to fact check me on that.
Fine.
But there's an old chart that used to be in a lot of chiropractic offices. And it would show the whole spine and show all these different nerves going to different organs and regions of the body.
Yep.
Now, based on anatomy, is that true? Do nerves go to organs? Well, yes. Nerves innervate every single area of our body. Of
course.
But if I look at someone's x-ray and I'm like, oh, look at this vertebra, it's rotated, and none of that's possible. I'm being facetious here.
Okay.
But
I didn't even know you were being facetious, so somebody listening probably.
I am. So I'm referring to kind of an old school mentality.
Okay.
First thing, let me take an x-ray. Oh, your bones are out of place. That's a very old school model. I do not do that.
Okay.
Many people shouldn't. But anyway, let's say we identify, okay, I believe this person has an issue in their mid-back. Oh, that goes to their liver or goes to this or whatever. And that's the reason for all of your digestive problems. Well, that's not really supported by the evidence, but sometimes we can't support everything that we do. So what I would say is if someone has, let's say, a digestive issue, okay, let's just say
that's the biggest one that I'm thinking in the moment anyway. So that's good.
Let's say digestive issues, and they have a low back problem simultaneously. Is it possible that the low back could be contributing to these digestive issues? It's not likely, but it's possible. It's not as simple as like, oh, low back nerve goes to stomach, ouchie.
Right.
It's not that simple.
That's awesome.
But what is slightly frustratingly awesome is that sometimes manipulation of the spine, adjustments, or they're commonly referred to, can have a very systemic effect on many different areas. And this can't really be explained. So, and I've even had this happen with me. Some people report their vision is getting better after starting to get regular adjustments. Their breathing gets better. Asthma patients, very, very common. Individuals with asthma will notice, better lung capacity or breathing after getting their mid-spine or their T-spine manipulated. These are very common things that we hear. But can we say, oh, well, yeah, duh, it's because that nerve goes directly to there? Not really.
Yeah.
So, does it have the potential to help digestive issues? It certainly has the potential, but I would never immediately say, oh.
That would be your first go-to.
That would not be my first go-to.
That makes sense.
It's not supported. It's not as common as potentially even the other way around. Sometimes digestive issues can actually cause widespread systemic pain in other places that is unexplained. And that
due to inflammation and all that.
Exactly right. So I've had a few patients with low back issues where we were working through some things, and even I started to be like, hey, this is starting to not follow a typical pattern. This is kind of unexplained. There's spikes and reprieve at times that don't really make sense. This is confusing. And what I'll do is I'll refer them to a colleague of mine who does functional medicine, where he will look at their blood work, he'll go over digestive related issues, all this stuff. And then we'll determine, all right, this actually wasn't a low back issue because of poor movement or strength or anything like that. This is a low back issue because it's a more of a systemic functional medicine based approach, where we need to improve these markers in your blood or these markers in your whatever they do. I'm not an expert there. And then all of a sudden their low back starts getting better, or their shoulder starts getting better, or their knee starts getting better.
That's wild.
So those are unique scenarios, but functional medicine field is becoming very, very popular for all the right reasons. Yeah,
it is. And I agree. I think, unfortunately, that the healthcare system fails people more often than every time. But with that thought process, let's touch on real quick. So how important is overall spine health in general, right? So let's say that you don't have any pain. My opinion and my belief is I want to try to take care of my entire body, right? But to someone who doesn't have any pain, should they even be thinking about taking care of their spine health? Or is it just they just go about their life, and if something comes up, then you see what I mean? That's how most of us function. It's well, I don't have a problem, so I'm not gonna, I'm not even gonna look into it.
Yes. Well, we know off the bat, I'll give you a very upfront answer, where we know that if we do preventative based care on our bodies, prehab, strengthening things, mobilizing things before an injury occurs, we know in the long run that actually reduces healthcare costs quite significantly within the whole system and within ourselves. Obviously, the burden is reduced. So purely for financial reasons, it is better to seek, whether it's with yourself or seeing a provider, prehab-based care, preventative-based care that is supported to reduce healthcare costs in that regard. Now, if I'm walking around and I don't have any spine issues, I would never tell someone, oh my gosh, you better start doing some spine prehab, otherwise something's going to happen soon, because that's what we would refer to as scare tactics,
of course,
fear-mongering type things. Maybe, oh, you better come see me, otherwise something's going to happen.
Right.
So there's a line. Would I advise someone, hey, if you're not struggling with something, there's an 80% chance you are in your lifetime, you better start get cracking on it now, at least with something very simple, maybe a few simple mobility movements that you add to your morning routine, or at the end of your workout, you just do a little bit of extra stretching than you might not normally do.
Got it.
That could go a very, very long way in regards to preventing any additional or further low back issues that they might experience in the future. But I would not make a hard, fast statement of saying, if you don't have pain, you better start doing something now. Otherwise, something's bad going to happen. Because it's almost, true injury is almost impossible to predict. But we do know that prehab is important.
Of course. And you posted something, this was probably a month or so ago now, but I think it was 90% of people who are considering back surgery don't even need back surgery. Something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Are you referring to the injection post?
Maybe it was. Maybe it was getting a spinal injection versus they could do the exercises, be functional, whatever, and relieve it that way or improve it that way. I don't know if you use the word fix, but
well, I use the word fix because it's simple and comprehensible. But realistically, if I'm talking with my colleagues, we don't like to use the word fix.
Right.
That's part of my brand. But anyway, so two different questions. Let me hit on the surgery and then injections one. Generally speaking, a lot of surgeries can be prevented. A lot of surgeries should be avoided. There's a reason that there is a condition called failed low back surgery syndrome. If there's a syndrome after it,
oh my gosh,
it's common.
I can't.
So some studies have reported up to almost 40% of failure rate of certain surgeries.
That's horrible.
Now, you're talking about something that, of course, we're getting more and more minimally invasive, but still, anytime even going under for a simple procedure, there's risks associated with that. And what we find is if someone does not go through a thorough assessment process and they get pushed to surgery quicker than they should have, which is 99.9% of people.
Yeah. I mean, you go to a surgeon to get surgery.
Yeah,
like
most of the time. Most of the time.
Well, I mean,
so
I don't think people understand that if you go to a surgeon first before maybe consulting someone like you or another movement specialist, their job is to cut you. Like that's their job. They're not going to necessarily recommend go check out so-and-so. So, we have to be more proactive and looking for other options.
Absolutely. And that's, part of my mission is to get that education out there to inspire people to do so. Right. Now, on that point, I have met a few surgeons who are on our send camp. Hey, you don't want to see me first, go see someone else. But the best providers in any profession ever, they're few and far between, right? So it's hard to find those guys. So the chances of them walking into someone's office and being told they need surgery right away after taking an MRI and seeing a disc herniation is quite high. Now, anyway, if someone gets a surgery and that one happens to fail, and then the only route they know is to get an additional surgery, with every additional surgery someone gets on the lower back, their chances of a positive outcome significantly reduce every single time.
Really?
So here's a fallacy. Some people think, oh, my first surgery didn't go so well. We're going to do a second one to resolve it or whatever. Their chances of feeling better after the second one are lower than after the first one. But, so, you know about Ronny Coleman.
I was literally just about to ask you.
Ronny Coleman.
No, I was literally like, okay, my next question, I'm going to ask him. For those of you who don't know, Ronny Coleman was a professional bodybuilder, probably one of the best in the world. But he's had, 8, 9 back surgeries now?
I think he's almost in the teens.
Yeah. So I was literally going to say, so what's your opinion on that then? Should he have... Yeah. I mean, he obviously was squatting like 900 pounds, like crazy stuff on his back. But in that situation, like he's just going to continue progressively getting worse then, right?
So... once you get past maybe the third surgery, you're essentially, I hate to phrase it this way, but you're almost doomed at that point. Wow. And he even says in his podcast, you might have caught this, or maybe it was a different interview, he was asked, so what do you think started this? Where do you think this basically rapid decline of your health stemming from your low back, what do you think triggered it? And he actually said the first surgery he thinks is the reason for it.
Wow.
So
I didn't catch that.
Now, for everyone listening, I'm purely speaking on hypotheticals here.
Right, and what you heard. Yeah.
Is there a chance that when he started having these issues, he didn't see the best provider initially and was pushed to surgery too quickly? And that if he had seen someone different off the bat and was able to get the right plan in place for him to resolve it conservatively, that he could still be walking normally today? Sure, there's a chance. Yeah. And that's what's very frustrating about it is you see individuals like that who are pushed towards invasive procedures so quickly, there's no turning back once you go that far.
Well, it's crazy because I think people look at people like him and think, oh, well, that'll never happen to him. I mean, because he's got the access to the best in the world. He's got the access to... And here he is, like barely 60 probably, and I mean he's pushing himself, but I wouldn't want to be in that position at 60 years old.
Nope, not one bit.
So
now, in regards to the quick comment you had about, let's say, injections.
Yeah.
Injections, another big Band-Aid. It can be quite an expensive Band-Aid too. I had a client from, I think he was in Georgia or Oklahoma, one of the two. I have clients all over, I forget. But he was getting ready to enroll in my program, and he was talking to one of his docs, like, oh, well, you should just do an injection first. It's covered by your insurance anyway. And he was talked into, okay, well, I'll try this, and if this doesn't work, then I'll go see Graham. So he's at the office, he's confirming with the nurse, hey, so this injection's been covered, right? Yeah, it's going to be covered. Talks to the doc as he's getting ready to do the injection. Hey, this is covered, right? Yeah, it's going to be covered. All good. $4,000 out of pocket. Bills arrive over the following 3 months. Guess what? It wasn't covered by insurance.
Oh, my gosh.
He was under the impression that he had good insurance. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is not that, you shouldn't spend any money on yourself. If that 4,000 injection were to work and last for the rest of his life, then money well spent. But he had relief for one day and then applied to my program the day after that. And that's the story that I hear most often. Now, very interesting study that was just published in 2020, I believe, early 2020. I'm trying to remember here. Actually found that injections have the potential to increase risk of surgery. And that about the statistic you brought up, I believe it was 90 something percent. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but
Right.
90 something percent. I think it was 97 actually, maybe 97.
It was 97.
97. You know my facts better than I do.
Well, no, I was just so shocked by it. You know, like things you remember. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, so 97% of majority of low back issues can be resolved without surgery. With
That's what it was.
Conservative care.
That's
and
what
yet
it was.
The 3% might require interventions. But of those in those populations that get on painkillers, that get or receive injections, their chances of needing surgery increases because of the negative impact it has on their health. Wow. And also their steps in the healthcare system. Because the way that this normally goes is, let's say I hurt my low back. First thing I do is go to the ER. First thing, well, ER has no idea how to manage low back issues.
Right.
I had a client that went there and they literally told them, yeah, we don't know what to do with low back issues. Like, here's some Vicodin, get out of here.
Oh my gosh.
It happens all the time.
Oh
so anyway, the first thing, okay, MRI, first thing they're going to do, oh, there's something there. Well, the first thing they're going to do is give you some medications, usually prednisone, high potency, like steroid to calm things down, right? And if that doesn't work, okay, well then we need the next step, which is an injection. So let's do an injection. Well, those, they hardly ever work.
Yeah.
Or they calm it down for a few days or a week or so and then it goes away. Then the injection fails. Well then, either there's one of two steps. All right, let's try another injection.
Right.
And then that fails again. And then, oh, well, what's left? Surgery.
Yeah.
And that's often the
because they're in that system
that people go through because they're in that system. That's all majority of those systems know to do. Start with drugs, doesn't work, then go more invasive. Injections doesn't work, go more invasive surgery. And that's the steps that majority of people fall through.
Right.
And it often does not lead to success and often can lead to very, very, very high expenses, which once again, if you get your money's worth, then it's worth it. But usually the value is not there. And we want high value care.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. It's very frustrating, the healthcare system. But I do want to shift for a few minutes, though, and just ask you some questions that aren't necessarily related to back and, you know, your profession, more about your journey into entrepreneurship and what that's been like. And, you know, obviously probably touching on 2020, I think you've said to me that because you're all virtual, it hasn't really affected you a ton. But did you at some point work under another doctor or start there? Or did you always know, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my own thing, it's going to be RehabFix? Or what was kind of the progression of when you came out of school to where you're at now? So
backtrack a little bit. When I was halfway through school, I decided to change my personal Instagram account to a brand. And I came up with RehabFix at that time. So I started building RehabFix, which for those of you listening is my Instagram. It started as my Instagram, but now it's just a social media platform. RehabFix is me, but it is an online low back program that is international, and I have clients all over the world.
That's awesome.
But so I started posting rehab videos, movement-based educational videos halfway through school, and I just kept posting more and more and more. Then eventually I made a goal, okay, I'm going to post every single day for a year straight. High-quality content. That takes a lot of effort.
It does.
And, you know, I got to 100,000 followers within a year of doing that, and
That's
I was
awesome.
able to reach that marker before I even graduated.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
In regards to, did I always know I was going to do my own thing or follow entrepreneurship? No, actually, the last thing on my mind was going out on my own. Right out of school. Yeah. And that was even up to probably 3 months before graduation. I was planning on working under a doc, most likely, trying to, you know, establish myself first.
Yeah.
All these false notions that I had in my head.
Of course.
Back now,
we all do. Yeah.
Because, you know, entrepreneurship is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. And I was just listening to a friend of mine that does a lot of entrepreneurship stuff the other day, where pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is a skill. And it's something that you can become better at, but it takes practice. So for me, he was kind of the transitionary period here. I was approaching the end of my schooling. I was doing my clinical rotations. I was at a particular practice here in Florida, and I was getting geared up to, you know, sign on with them, sign a contract, see patients there. And as I focused more and more on RehabFix, on my online business, I wasn't making any money from it yet at that time.
Right.
I just slowly started to learn more about the potential there and what I had at my disposal that I wasn't totally leveraging yet or really knew how to use. So it all started with just a few, you know, sales, so to speak. I hate to use that term, but we all
everybody
understand.
does. But
You have to make money, right? So,
that's right.
I had initially launched an automated online program where I was not involved. No one was speaking with me one-on-one. It was just a pre-made program. Hey, do this for your low back. I started with something very, very simple. And so I invested to a local videographer. It was very good. He did all the editing for me, and we spent a full day, and I filmed a 6-month-long program. That was meant to just guide people through it. So I created a website, launched that on my website, made a few sales. It was exhilarating. I got some really great feedback. People were emailing me about how it was changing their lives. It's really, really great.
Yeah.
But I didn't really see still where that could go.
Right.
So as I continued to vamp that up, as I started to see at that time clients, not patients, but clients in person that were in Florida that wanted to see me, but I didn't have my license yet. And this is, if anyone listening is friends with anyone in a PT program or DC program, this advice right here is worth $100,000. So listen up. We're under the impression that, if you don't have your license, you can't practice, which is true, which is 100% true. But I'm in the movement space. And if someone wants to come see me, as long as I don't do anything that requires my doctorate license, I can personally train someone.
Wow.
So basically what I learned that I could do is people started reaching out to me from Florida because I have a large social media following saying, hey, I see that you're in Tampa now. I want to come, because they followed me from St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
I want to come see you for this, this, and this. And I was turning people away. I was saying, hey, I can't, but if you schedule an appointment with this office in 4 months, then you can come see me.
Oh my gosh.
That sort of thing. And I was turning people away. And then I thought to myself, and I don't remember how this dawned on me, but I thought to myself, wait, why don't I just contact a gym, try to rent out some space. I have my own portable table. I'll bring my portable table in. I won't do any, and I'm going to emphasize this, no procedures that need a license.
Absolutely.
Because I can do corrective exercise with people because I have my CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. I had a training certification. So I started to do that. So I hunted, I found a gym, I rented out some space. This is before I even graduated, and people started seeing me in person. And so this was my trial run. So I thought, hey, let me see if I can get something off the ground and running. Yeah. Because I have nothing to lose. Right. I haven't graduated yet. I don't have all these bills coming in. I don't student loans yet. Absolutely. I can give this a shot to see if I can take that leap. Well, started to build. So within about 2 months of graduation, I was starting to get more and more and more. By the day that I graduated, I think I was averaging like 23 or 24 client visits per week. Wow. At that point already. That's awesome. So walking into my first day of practice, I had like 25 people on the schedule. So going through that building process, as soon as I started to see an increase in local and online attention, I realized right away, I was like, okay, I could not work for somebody else. Yeah. This is not. And once you get addicted to that, it's like, it's almost impossible to go back. Impossible. Doesn't matter how hard it gets. It's literally impossible. Yeah, impossible. So I started out on my own. I just continued renting space out of the gym. Was seeing patients locally. Things were going great. I was doing some workshops locally, really trying to build that business. And because I was starting to get more busy locally, I actually started to put the online portion of my business kind of on the back burner. I had that automated program that required no maintenance for me. I would still consistently make videos, but I wasn't really pushing, so to speak. So I was trying to balance both of them. I wasn't really doing any one of them 100%, but I started to give, locally maybe 70%, 80% of my attention. And online was kind of just there. Well, then COVID happened, right? So although I'm, deemed an essential, worker, an essential provider, and I could stay open, still, many people were fearful, didn't want to come in, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And so I went from, 25 visits a week to 3, wow. 4, basically it. And a lot of people had it much worse, so I'm grateful for those that still did come to see me. But instead of scrambling in regards to, all right, well, I'm going to put more marketing into local practice to let people know you can still come see me, which is what a lot of offices did, which is understandable. Yeah, and that's most of their, for them, it's most of their revenue. Exactly right. Yeah. So for me, I had the option to, all right, let's start to go into advertising. Let's work my butt off to try to get whatever local business I can back. Or do I want to completely shift gears, completely desert local, and put all my marbles in the online basket while I can't do much locally? And that's the avenue that I chose. So
That's awesome.
I started pushing everything into online. I developed a more one-on-one, training program or coaching program rather for low back issues. So now instead of some automated program, it is, one-on-one for 6 months straight, 24/7 communication. People can text me whenever they want. And, I have clients in Serbia, Australia, New Zealand, Egypt, a lot in the UK, Canada, Japan, Taiwan,
that's awesome.
all over at this point.
That's awesome.
And it has given me the opportunity to reach so many more people that did not have access to local care that was adequate.
Yeah.
So if they try, I talk to people who try, 5, 6 chiropractors. I've seen 8 physical therapists. I've seen 3 different surgeons. No one here can help me. Well, I can see anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
And now I have the opportunity to reach out to these people that feel stuck and that feel like they're in a dead end and they don't know where to go. And we're able to make a difference in their life. And not only can we make a difference, but we can prove to them that they did it on their own. They just needed a little bit of guidance and a push to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what's so special about online work with this fashion, because once again, I'm a chiropractor.
Right.
I'm not adjusting people online, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But what I'm showing people
might be available someday.
Who knows? Who knows? But what we're showing people is that they don't need a pill. They don't need someone to do a procedure for them to provide temporary relief to get on with their day. We're showing people that you can fix yourself. You just need a proper plan. You just need the right guidance. You just need the right coaching. And by the end of the 6 months, you will not only have fixed yourself 100% without anybody touching you, but you're going to know how you did it. You're going to know the movements that you need to keep in your routine to keep it that way. And if anything happens in the future, you know how to address it, and you're not going to panic, and you're not going to be sucked into this healthcare system where people are just on this gerbil wheel going round and round and round, and just getting drained in more ways than one. That's what's so amazing about it.
No, that's awesome.
We can reach so many people in such an effective fashion.
I love it. You can just tell your energy is like, you're like, I love it.
I love this.
No, it's awesome.
I love it. And, a lot of my colleagues sometimes will ask, hey, Grant, we know you're like, and to be clear, I do still see some patients in person.
Yeah, of course.
I see maybe 2 a week. And these are just people who they need the hands-on. They just want the hands-on. They like it.
Yeah.
But I even have online clients locally that are in my online program. So I have people in Tampa, in St. Pete, in Brandon, in Wesley Chapel.
Okay.
Chapel.
Yep.
That they're technically local, but I don't see them in person.
Yeah.
They're in my online program.
They'd rather do it.
We can get results without me being there.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of my colleagues are like, Grant, you went to school for 3.5 years. I invested a lot of money in different seminars, got really good at manual therapy. I was good with my hands. I'm good with all those things. Like, you're not doing any of this anymore. Do you feel as satisfied with your work? And I'm like, man, I feel more satisfied. I don't get my satisfaction from putting my hands on someone. I get satisfaction from being the person who figured it out.
Yeah.
And who got them better.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
who's getting photos of them returning to their sport, returning to their family, going on vacation without debilitating low back issues. That's the reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not being able to just adjust someone. So I'm like, you don't believe the kind of reward that I'm getting pictures all over the world from people who have their lives back.
That's awesome,
that is,
dude.
Oh my gosh. There's one guy that comes to mind. His name's Jason. He might be listening to this. He's in the UK, from Scotland, and his low back issues was taking away his career as a firefighter.
Oh, wow.
And in his region, the demand for firefighters is very, very high. And so when you get put on the medical leave list or whatever, it's almost like a 3 strikes you're out system. So he was seeing local physical therapists. And what I've learned also through working nationally is that we all think, we need universal healthcare, free healthcare, so much better. Our healthcare is so expensive, which it is, not denying that. But what I've learned is that universal healthcare is not a solution either, because I have more clients in socialized healthcare systems than not.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, I guess, but
but it might for others out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, he wasn't getting the right care, and because everything was so delayed, he had to, have a physical test to try to get, re-back or, re-enlisted on the force, and he failed that first one, and then he went another 6 months or so, then failed the second one, and he only has one more test left until he's booted and someone takes his place.
Wow.
So he contacted me.
How did he find you?
On Instagram.
So he was already following you, or just okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Majority of my clients, probably 99% of them, were following me on Instagram.
No, that's awesome. That's good.
Just following along.
Yeah.
So he decides, hey, I got to do whatever it takes. So we go through an assessment. He had really, really bad sciatica. We figure out what's going on, and I'm like, hey, I think there's a very, very high chance that you're going to be in a good place. And for him, like he couldn't even walk a few minutes without getting sciatica all the way down his leg and all this. Well, within about 3 to 4 months, he started sending me pictures after hiking to these mountains in his region.
No way.
Sending me pictures with his dog. He's back on hikes again. And now his PT test is January 18th. So just a couple weeks from now.
So he hasn't even done it yet.
He hasn't done it yet.
Ah!
That's the factor. And now things have been a little bit difficult because gyms have been shut down.
Yeah,
so he hasn't been able to
course.
totally push himself. But I asked him, we stay in touch. He's graduated at this point. But I'm like, hey man, like, how do you feel? And he's like, I'm ready to smash it. So
That's awesome.
I'm telling you what, when I get that message, I'm saying when, because I know
You
it's gonna happen.
better put that out
Like,
there.
he got his position back. He's back on the force. He's working full time again. Like, nothing is better than
that's going to be awesome. And the fact that it's practically a world away.
Yes,
That's so cool.
It's so special, man, and it's just so gratifying to have this impact. It's huge.
So where do obviously Instagram? People find you on Instagram, but where can people find you? Is Instagram the best place? Do you have a website? Where if someone was like, hey, I really want to learn, or I really want to at least observe what this guy is doing, what he's putting out, what's the best place for them to go?
Instagram is the best platform.
Okay.
Where they can find me as, RehabFix. And the reason why is because people need to follow for a while before they're really committed and really ready to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I get some people that just, stumble across me on Google or stumble across me on Facebook, and they reach out and they're like, hey, I'm ready to do something. And sometimes they are, but very, very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
What I encourage most people to do is to realize that, like, if someone were to come to me for help, I take this very, very seriously. And the way we work is very intimate. Like, I take this seriously. I need them to take it seriously.
Mm.
This isn't some, do this little cheap thing, little cheap fix.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very involved. It's a high commitment on both ends. So what's best is for most individuals to follow along with my stories, my posts, to truly learn about, what I do, what they can do,
Mm-hmm.
what they can accomplish on their own, how they can change their lives. And hey, sometimes my posts alone will give people the tools to fix themselves. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, if they're scrambling and taking too many guesses on my page and they just can't figure out what works, well, that's where the coaching comes into play. But what would be best is to just follow the Instagram, look at the posts, apply the posts, read them, understand them, apply them into their own lives, and see what something so simple can change.
Yeah.
And then figure out what you're going to do from there.
I love that you gave that as advice, because I don't think that people understand. We're all pushed to just put out content. But I don't think that people understand that if they actually do the content, like just follow the videos that you're putting out, they work.
Yep. Right?
I think that people think that it's just like, a lot of times I think people in the front end think, oh, that's just a ploy. Like, that might work for somebody else, but it's not going to work for me. And I know your videos work because I've done a few of them myself, like with random stuff. I'll be like literally having an issue and you'll post a video like a week later and I'm like, I'm going to try that now. And it works every time. So I think that that's great advice. Instead of just, hey, come and do the program and sign up, like see how you can help yourself first with what I've already put out there. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And and like I said, it's a great way to stratify individuals to where, like, hey, if you want to come to me first, if you want to skip through trying all these things on your own, then by all means.
You can.
But, truly, try the content first, apply it, see where you get with that. And you'll know by the end of that if you're truly ready to commit to something, because people need to be ready to get better. And that's a post that I just made today, actually. Some people aren't ready to get better.
Right.
And they're looking for options, which is fine, but they're still not ready to get better. Just like people with their fitness goals. Some people aren't ready to make that change, and they need to be truly ready for that. And I want individuals who are, ready, who have put in some effort on their own, sure, and are ready to pull that trigger and ready to really change their lives and do something serious. That's where I want them to be.
I love it. Well, dude, this was awesome. Thank you for coming in and doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that you feel like people should know?
Yeah. Look out for fear-mongering, scare tactic messages out there. So something that I've become very sick of is
excellent. I love this.
So many providers tell people what's wrong with them instead of what's right with them. Our words matter. Our words are so important. And I'm not even joking. I think sometimes I will get people better when everyone else has failed them sometimes not because my plan is perfect and because I was, had the right movement and just the right thing. Sometimes that's the case, sure. But I think sometimes it's purely because I've inspired them and motivated them and spoke healing into them because I was the only person to ever encourage them to move again, to exercise again, to play with their kids again. It's astonishing what some people are told. And this is all over the world. All over the world, I've spoken with clients that were told to quit their jobs, to change careers. One person was told to just be bedridden for the next 6 years until retirement.
Not
lying. Not lying. People have been told to just lay down. There's nothing you can do. You just need to rest for the next 6 years. So many people are told, oh, look at this X-ray. Here's what's wrong. Here's what's wrong. We see this. We see this. We see this. Why are they not told, hey, you know what? This X-ray doesn't look that bad. There's still a lot that you can do. Let's focus on what you can do, and let's structure some things that you can do in your own home. Right. It doesn't have to be anything intense. Let's figure out what you can do.
Right.
So simple. But people's course of their lives will change with their health if they're given the wrong message from the start. So here's an example. I had a client, online client. He's in Florida. I forget where he's at exactly, but he's in Florida. I think he's like 3 or 4 hours away. In my online program, was really struggling. His, sciatica and his low back was taking him away from his work. He was starting to lose funds. Payments on, house and everything were getting tighter. And he was like, I need to fix this so I can work and I can make a living. I was like, all right, if you're willing to invest even more on the trust that this is going to return, then let's do this. And we had a really, really good assessment. We got results during the assessment. And that's the trajectory that I want to go through with most people. We usually get results during the very first meeting so that we know that the program's going to work. I don't mess with anyone's time or money. But anyway, this client, fantastic. 3 months in, oh my gosh, I can't believe where I'm at. I'm able to do this again. I'm picking up more shifts at work.
That's wild.
This is incredible. And then what happened was this. He got in a car wreck. Okay.
Oh no.
Flared up his low back, which is okay, understandable. We're not bulletproof yet. 3 months in, right? Still a little bit fresh in the recovery path. But flared up his low back a little bit. And immediately he had an attorney friend that said, okay, so here's what you need to do. You need to go see this chiropractor. We work together. It turned into a PI case.
Oh no.
And especially in Florida, personal injury cases become nasty and corrupt. So here's what happened. He was told, oh my gosh, well, if you feel anything in your back, you need to go right away because this other driver, like someone was messing with their insurance and you need to make sure you do this and cover all your bases. So, which is fine, cover your bases, sure. So we went to see this clinic. The first thing they didn't even assess him. All right, we're gonna do an X-ray and MRI. So they're looking for something to blame. Yeah. Right. We already knew that he had a disc herniation. We've known that for years. But just because something is on image doesn't mean it's a problem. And that's something that a lot of people get sucked into is a lot of still the current healthcare system. If they see something on your picture, they blame it. But a large majority of individuals with findings, they're asymptomatic. Individuals aged 40 plus, 50% of them have an asymptomatic disc bulge or disc herniation on MRI. They don't even know it because it's not a problem. So anyway, he gets this MRI, has a disc herniation. Okay, we all know that. And this doc just starts, this is the worst I've ever seen. This is terrible. I'm surprised you can even walk.
Oh my gosh.
You want to reconsider your job. You're definitely going to need surgery. We're going to have to start getting injections going right away. Freaks him out. This grown man left the office crying, called his dad, thought he was going to have to file disability. And from there on, for the next 3 months, I lost contact with him. Everything crumbled and he was in a terrible spot. Finally, I was able to get him to reach back out to me, and he was, disappointed, and he was embarrassed that this all happened. Hey, Grant, we're in such a good spot, and now look where I am. Oh my gosh! And I got on a call with him. It was like an hour and a half conversation, and I could just see the defeat that was spoken into him. Tragic. And I went through, and I got him back on track. I got his mind in the right place again, because he wasn't working. His son's in high school, couldn't go to his son's football games, really, really bad. After being so good, disability was spoken into him. It was scared into him.
Yep,
felt helpless, felt like there was a dead end, felt like there was nothing else to do.
Sure was.
And what it took was my words to get him back on track, to get him to start moving again, to get him to start doing exercises again. And after getting him back on track, he just graduated, almost pain-free completely, back to doing the things that he loves, and he's ready to conquer the rest of his life.
This is wild, dude.
So words matter.
Yeah.
And if the first thing you start hearing when you go to see a provider of any kind is, oh, this is bad, look at this image, you should stop this, if that's what you hear, you got to run. You got to run, because
call Grant at RehabFix.
please, I'm passionate about this, because
yeah.
The guy's name was Rob. If I had not been able to get him to come back,
his life would be completely different.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's impossible to predict. Maybe the next 20 years would have been spent in fear. And it hurts me so much to know that there's people out there that receive that message. And it's frustrating. And then that's it. And that's their sentence. And people are being sentenced to disability through words and through images and through all these things. It's sickening. And it's very, very frustrating.